Morning everybody, welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. Thought I'd spend a little time this morning, make a video. No idea how long it'll end up being. Depends, I guess, on how much I run my mouth. I wanted to make a video about tools, and tools that I get a lot of questions about. You guys see me using them here on the channel, and some of them you can easily get, others is not easy to get. So like I say, I think I'll just kind of run through the stuff I get the most questions on and give you an idea of whether you're going to be able to find it, a reproduction, or if it's something you can easily get on Amazon. So I think what I'll do is I'll start with home light tools, and I think I've got this pretty well organized and won't be bumbling around too badly. So we'll start with one of the more common ones, and that is clutch tools. Alright, again, these are all home light tools. You can't go buy them. I'm sorry, but they've been obsolete since home light was sold to a firm in China. It is what it is. Now, they still pop up on eBay. You've got two main types, the 2-prong and the 3-prong. So what's the difference? This is designed for one that has a projected hub. This one's designed for one that doesn't. A lot of those 2-prongers, note, same spacing, so if you've got one and you need the other, in all likelihood you can make either one work, but there are two different part numbers there. Again, some of those old clutch designs had projected and recessed hubs, and that's what this was designed for. This is the flat hub, where just, there you go. These pins can be replaced if you break them. The easiest way to not break them is stay away from rattle guns. I've found the 3/8 DeWalt impact driver doesn't break these, but if you switch up to anything air, it's going to break. And in reality, you probably should use, rope as a piston stop and not be using the rattle gun anyway. But I take shortcuts sometimes too, we all do. So you've got these 3-prongers, and there are 2 spacings on these. This is not the same. Okay, you've got the wider spacing that fits the Super XL style clutches and up, and then the narrow spacing that is the Super Easy 350 yada yada. Now these are not designed to take clutches off that are the 3-shoe kind of open spring design. Lots of times you can wiggle them in there to where they'll work. You got to be careful you don't destroy your springs. That is a possibility. So those are clutch tools, not available. You're not going to find them new from any retailer unless it's somebody who has some new old stock home light parts. We'll look at some flywheel pulling tools. Okay, you guys see me use this one most commonly. It's the most useful to me, hence what I'm about to say will make it not as cool for people who don't have one. Home light tool. Same thing as those clutch tools. It's not made anymore, short of finding somebody who, lists one on eBay, either new or used. That's about it. So the design of this, you can see I've broken one. What actually happened is one of these, this is aluminum, this nut, and it's stripped. So I built my own out of steel, and I haven't bothered to put a retainer ring on it. I just kind of deal with it. But it's designed to screw right onto the flywheel pawl studs. And then you run the screw down, pops it off. You guys see me do it. This side without the screw is meant for holding it. So screw that onto the flywheel, and then you're using that clutch tool. You got something to hold on to. Very, very useful, very, very nice. I like it a lot. That's why I use it so much. But again, if you want one, you got to look on eBay. and look for a long time. Might take years before another one of these pops up. Who knows? There's the aftermarket style, and this is what I send most people to. Well, if you ask me what to use, I'm gonna say that. Now this is from Custom Chainsaw Parts, fellow out of Washington, and that's a machined steel plate. I've bent this one a little bit. This is my second one. I've destroyed one on a really stubborn old McCulloch clutch for Jim years ago. Was it a clutch or a flywheel? Can't remember now. And maybe it wasn't even McCulloch. It might have been Pioneer. Whatever. You can destroy these, but it takes a little effort. Same principle. You've got your center screw. It's going to go against the crankshaft. The difference with this style is you've got to pull those pawls out. You got to take the studs out of the flywheel. So it's a little more work, a little more time, parts management, whatever. You get a nice selection of screws that come with it, and quite frankly, for the home light stuff, you know what works the best? Those three right there. They're 1224. Those are starter screws from Super XL with some washers that I added. Those work the best. Those will do the vast majority of home light flywheels. Right there. And again, the vast majority of home light flywheels, you're going to only be using two. Now the C series and the 1050s and all of that have, many of those have, you know, three, but most of your home light flywheels are just going to be two. So I like that particular system. For aftermarket, this one the best. This bigger puller I have here is actually a steering wheel puller, and the only reason I drug that out was because there are occasionally some of those really heavy-duty old, you know, clutches from the 50s and early 60s that'll just destroy that plate, and guarantee nothing on a chainsaw is going to get destroyed, or is going to destroy this. You might destroy what's on the chainsaw, but same principles there. Here I have some more home light tools that I've accumulated through my parts buying over the years. There's just a lot of stuff that's not available. And actually that one, I should take that back. That is a steel tool. But we'll go through these first. These are seal drivers. Okay. So you've got the center drilled out to accommodate a crankshaft. And then in theory, that's the right size to hammer a seal in place straight. And if it's a really cool tool, it's recessed at the right depth that you drive it to. Now, there's so many different ones for so many different models. I like to just have a couple that are the right size, that won't distort the seal, and I'll deal with setting them square myself. You can do that by tapping around the edges. I mean, you guys know that. I don't remember which saw that came through that I actually needed a steel driver for, because I didn't have the right one. But and here's a bearing driver, same kind of thing. You know, this still has the home light part number on it, so I could look it up. I don't know which one it fits, but that's what it's intended for, driving a bearing in place. And then this jack screw, that's threaded down there, threaded up here. This is intended to pull a crankshaft into place. That's what this is meant for. So think about setting a crankshaft and drive case bearing into the drive case of, say, a Super XL. I believe that's what this one is for. So you would thread this on the crankshaft, put that on that hub where the oil pump's supposed to be, start pulling it into place. That's what they're meant for, and that's pretty cool. It's far better than hammering on something. The other option is stack a bunch of washers, use the clutch plate, keep adding washers. But again, some of these tools you're just not going to find because they aren't made anymore. Alright, now this is one I probably get more questions on than anything. Home light tool. Now, no, those hoses aren't original. I had to replace them. And I need to replace this because it's starting to crack out. But let's be real. This is super simple to make. In fact, one guy did, I don't know, maybe last year, made a bunch of them up and sold them on eBay for about $50 a piece. Misspelled my name, but referenced my business, and you know, it works. All you need is a pressure gauge. It goes to about 15 psi. If it goes further, who cares? As long as you've got a scale you can read. You need barbs on either side. So that brass fitting in the gauge is probably going to cost more than anything. I just ordered 2 of these blood pressure bulbs, and that's all they are, for $20 on Amazon. This one has survived in the shop under use for 5 or 6 years now. I mean, they're not designed to have grease and fuel and all that kind of crap hit them, but that's what happens. So I'm going to replace that bulb and keep using this. But if you want to build your own, that's not hard to do. You can get a bulb, the fittings, it's just tied on hose, and then you cut yourself a few short chunks of hose to use as spacers. So I slip that on the barb, on a small barb of a carburetor, and then slip this right over it. It makes a good enough seal to pressure test. Really, really basic stuff. You don't need to invest a whole lot once you've got something like this, you know, already set up. So again, I know you can do this. So if you do a lot of carbs, I would recommend it. It's very nice to have. If you don't do a huge number of carbs, you can get you know, down at Harbor Freight, one of their pressure and vacuum tools, and rig up a few hoses and you'll be good to go. Alright. If, however, you do a lot more, I'd recommend staying away from the Harbor Freight and go with something a little more substantial when it comes to pressure testing. It's the Mighty Vac model MV8500. This might have been discontinued, might be an 8510 now, whatever. Go out and look for Mighty Vac. I busted the hinge off of that. What do you know? Okay, you guys have seen me do this for pressure testing. Crankcases. I mean, this is, you can bleed brakes with it, but I'm doing what I need to do with it. I had some other stuff out. Here we go. So, obviously, it's a metal casing. Okay. Going to be harder to break. You could break it if you dropped it. Gauge goes to 30 psi, or 30 inches of vacuum. Also has the kPa if you care to measure in a metric scale. Whatever. It'll do both. Real simple. Change the knob setting. I like this. This is very easy. I unscrew the tip because I don't like to take those stiff old hoses off the barb all the time. Got an O-ring on the tip. What's all the other junk in here? Block-offs. If you do a huge number of saws, making actual steel block-off plates to go with these probably makes sense. This is a muffler one. I just slip this under the muffler, tighten it down, and call it good. Sometimes you gotta dink around. I've got a bunch of these that are cut. Covers most of the sizes. Pretty straightforward. To pressure test, I like to go through the spark plug hole. You've got 2 options. I actually bought this fitting and was really super excited about it. And for whatever reason, I think it took long enough to get here that I actually have never used it. But this screws right into the spark plug hole. Has an O-ring. You slip the hose on it. Now you note that hose isn't right. I'd have to put a sleeve on it, but that's okay. That's one way to do it. Block off your carb, block off everything else, go through the spark plug hole. I ended up with I just took this out of a compression tester kit, took the Schrader valve out of the one end, and I use this because it matches up perfectly and it gives me a little extra length to work with. But whatever, you can do pressure testing of crankcases with this. If you want to neck it down, you could use this to pressure test carburetors too. Just saying. You don't have to have all the tools, you know. I like this because it's smaller, it's easier on the bench. I don't have to, you know, dig all this stuff out, but depending on how often you do or don't use it, that is an option that is absolutely worth considering. Yeah, if you're doing crankcase pressure testing, something like this is going to be the way to go. Alright, compression testing. This is a Mighty Vac MV5530 Professional. Yeah, whatever. It's a good kit, but I'm sure there's better out there. And more expensive, like, say, something from Snap-on. Got everything you need. Large size, small size spark plug threads. Got a deep, you know, recessed one. That short hose came out of here. I didn't need it. I just used this long one. Make sure you've always got a Schrader valve in there that works. If it leaks, you'll have a faulty reading. Those attach with a quick coupler to the gauge assembly itself right here. This goes to 300 psi. It goes to 20 cubic centimeters and 20, what would that be, 2,000 bars or kilopascals. Am I saying that right? I'm not sure. kPa. I'll have to look it up. I'm rusty on my metric. I use PSI. Works great. Comes with a little extra kit of stuff that I have never needed. Extra O-rings, valves, and a valve removal tool. I'm just going to put that back. I have not had this fail yet. Knock on wood. So, I'm lingering on this because I get so many emails from people. Hey, you know, my saw doesn't run really good. You know, it doesn't idle quite right. Or, you know, I've got a problem with it and I did the compression and it, you know, it's only 85 psi. So my response is always the same. If you've got 85 psi, it's not running, or at least barely will fire. A two-stroke engine under 90 psi, check it out. I've had plenty of cases where I've had a saw come in that had 80 psi, and it's 120, 130 on this one. So I know this gauge is good, and my people use some logic. Again, a two-stroke engine is not going to run hardly at all, if at all, under 90 psi. So if you've got a saw that actually runs pretty good and you throw a gauge on it and go, oh my god, it's only 80. No, it's not. Your gauge has something wrong with it, whether it's a leaking valve or the gauge just isn't any good. Check it out. Your saw is not going to run good at those low PSIs. So I recommend something that's reputable, or at least semi-reputable, and I'm going to rate this kit in that category. That's my bar rail closer, because I have never found the attachment for the bar shop that would have been a factory bar rail closer, and I don't have one of the nice Oregon kits that has the steel shims that allow you to kind of hammer the rails closed. So you can get this through Bailey's. I think this was Forester brand. There's several knockoffs. It's not a high quality tool, but it gets the job done if you know how to use it. Good news is the bearings, and if you blow one up, which I have, it's the same as the Super XL drive case bearing. So I ordered that number on eBay and just got it without the retaining ring, which was a lot cheaper. So, you know, not hard to replace those. You can see I've worn some pretty deep grooves in here. The little depth bolt they had there is almost gone. You just adjust the in and out by unscrewing that. That changes how tight it's going to be. That's why you have to keep the nut a little bit loose there. This would actually serve well with some nylocks, and someday I'll upgrade to that. But as you're pulling it across the rail, you keep tightening it, and you got a crank on this son of a bitch. But you got to be careful too, because you can go a little too far, and spreading the rails is a lot more of a pain in the butt than closing them. But this simple little tool will do it. It's not going to be pretty, and like I say, it's going to get worn down and look like this one pretty quick if you do it hardly at all, but that's okay. I mean, it's a tool, that's what it's meant for. So, what else should we cover? We'll cover chain grinders. Okay. This one's not available anymore, to the best of my knowledge, but it's available in a very similar form. This is, I can't even read it. Northern. It's from Northern Tool. I think it's Northern Industries or something like that. The Tachometer, and there's some other off-brand. It's basically the same. So this is the one that has the adjustable base so that you can grind square chisel chain, or excuse me, round chisel chain at the 15-degree angle, 10-degree. Brain isn't working this morning. You can tilt the deck. Settle at that. Parts are fairly interchangeable with Oregon. The tension spring actually broke a few years ago and scared the ever-living piss out of me. I used one from an Oregon, was it the 511, I think was the old model of Oregon, and it's close enough. It worked. Thing works, whatever. Things that it doesn't do as well as I would like. That spring isn't strong enough. I need to replace that. So your in and out on your chain catch there will loosen up as you're grinding. I gotta stop and tighten it. Whatever, no big deal. This a manual clamping mechanism. It works fine. The ones that have a hydraulic assist are around $500 or $600. This unit cost me $200, so I'm happy with that. You can tilt the head from 90 degrees to I think 40, and that changes the angle that you're cutting into the wheel. So you can get a deeper hook cutting into the tooth. You can get a deeper hook on it. You can do a shallower hook. You're adjusting your top plate angle. So this does that. That's your depth adjustment. It'll take wheels from a 1/4 inch down. Pretty reliable little unit. I've sharpened a lot of stinking chains with this, and I am not unhappy with it at all. So I would stay away from the Harbor Freight little tiny thing. I had one for 5 minutes, and that's why I upgraded to this. If you're going to only grind one type of chain, and you might grind it twice a year, Harbor Freight would be good. But if you're doing any kind of production or any serious amount, upgrading to something that has these features is a lot better. It really is. So, last but not least, I knew there was something I was forgetting. The tack. I saw that in the video the other day. And this one is a pretty good little unit. I've never used the brand before this. I'm sure it's made in China. Easy Tack Plus ES328. I believe this model is still available. And I like it because it's simple. I've got it for a 2-stroke 1-cylinder, but it's allegedly good for everything. You just kind of thumb through and find it. You've got a firing light, or you can put the light on. That's how you change the 4-stroke 4-cylinder, 4-stroke 5, 6, 7, 8, 2-stroke 1. I'll leave it there. I believe with the light on, it'll actually pulse like a timing light. I don't find the need to use that, but it's okay. So the nice part is you don't have to use the lead. Where it says antenna right there, you can just hold that against your spark plug boot and get a live reading right there. When I'm tuning, especially if I've got the saw mounted up here in the vise, you just plug this in, and it's inductive, clip it to the lead, and then your hand's free. You can sit there, rev the saw, do whatever, and still see what's going on. So, real simple little tool. I want to say they're around 50 bucks. Who knows what they are now? Probably 60, 70, who knows. But really nice tool for getting a baseline, whether you're setting idle, checking your clutch operation to make sure it's engaging at the right speed and disengaging at the right speed. Yeah, just a really nice little tool to have. So, alright, I'm sure there's something that I missed that somebody will ask me about, and I'll go, I should have included that, but hopefully that goes through real major stuff that's that you guys see on the channel all the time. And if you're looking to buy some of that stuff, what I'll do, I'll chapter the video, and then I'll try to put links as I can down there in the description. And yeah, hopefully this helped you guys out.